A very good evening to you. I'm Sonia Jessup. Every month, police in London receive around 8,000 reports of domestic abuse, but some survivors don't speak out because they're terrified of losing their children. Now, in a radical new approach, authorities in 2 London boroughs are being told to stop putting the responsibility on those being abused to keep their children safe. Our Home Affairs correspondent Catherine Carpenter has been speaking to families affected about why they feel the system must change.
Caring for his family's dogs has helped Luke Hart cope with unbearable loss. They're a constant connection to his mother and sister, who were shot dead by his controlling and abusive father.
He made sure our mum didn't have a phone, didn't have access to the internet, and would often regularly stalk her and turn up at her place of work just to check she was where she claimed that she was. And we just thought that our father was an insecure man. We didn't realise that he was dangerous.
Ivan Kigenza gets his strength from thinking about his niece. Now cared for by family in Rwanda, she was 2 when she saw her mother Lena murdered by her ex-boyfriend.
David actually held a knife on her and tried to suffocate her with a pillow. She managed to call the police came over, and the police officer just told my sister, "Oh, he's the father of your child, why can't you let him see his child?" But I'm scared of him, I think he's going to kill me.
Both men say their abused relatives did their best to protect their children, but either weren't listened to by the authorities or were blamed for failing to keep their family safe.
What happens often in cases of abuse is that women are held to much higher expectations for parenting by services, by friends, by family themselves, which means that women can be kind of manipulated and men can create really difficult environments for women to parent in and then hold the woman responsible for the outcomes.
Here in Waltham Forest, they say that happens too often. It means some abused parents don't speak out or engage with social workers because they're worried their children will get taken away. That's why here and in Hackney, they're adopting a new approach, which has had success in America.
Prior to the training in the Safe and Together model, you might have somebody go in and say to the mom, "You should leave, why are you still here, what's wrong with you, why do you keep picking him over your kids?" And instead, when they apply the Safe and Together model, they're going to go in looking for her strengths and sort of approach her as a partner in keeping the kids safe and say something like, "Well, we assumed you were trying to keep yourself and your kids safe before we showed up. Can you tell us something about what you've been doing and how we can help you?"
The aim is to keep children with the non-abusing parent and to get the abuser to take responsibility for what they've done. It sounds really obvious that this should be happening already.
Yeah, it really does. It's really, really important that we shine a spotlight onto children's social care more generally. It's where we spend a vast amount of public money as local government on those services, and we absolutely need to make sure that we're spending that money as smartly as we possibly can.
Between them, Waltham Forest and Hackney have paid around £80,000 for the first phase of training and resources, money they hope to recoup by sharing the model with other boroughs and in the longer term by driving down the need for care places and reducing youth violence. It's a radical change, and one which comes too late for these women and countless others. Catherine Carpenter, BBC London.
Well, Neil Blacklock is from the charity Respect, which works to change the behaviour of abusive men. Thank you for joining us. Now, we know women can also be abusers, but you work with mainly men in this context. It sounds obvious that the abuser should be held to account, really, not the person being abused. Why isn't that happening already, though?
Well, the numbers of domestic abuse cases in children's services and family services caseloads is just sort of escalated over the last 15 years. So it's a real demand out there. And for many years, there's been a real focus on the mother. So people have gone in and looked at what she can be doing to improve the situation for the children. And often perpetrators, fathers of abuse, have just not been present, not been engaging. And we need to give our children's service professionals the skills and tools to be able to engage with those fathers better, so we can, one, understand the extent of the abusive behaviour and how that's affecting their children's welfare, but also hopefully to engage in those who are motivated to address and change that behaviour.
So reforming male abusers is a key aspect of this, but how easy is that?
Well, reforming male abuse is part of this process. It is it is part of holding people accountable. So if you're holding people accountable for the abuse that they use, then you need to be able to offer them opportunities to change that. And for some men, that'll be a really life-changing experience for them, both in terms of their relationships, but also them as fathers as well. It's for some men that's going to be quite a challenge, so it's not going to work for everybody. So it depends on their motivation, but it's perfectly possible to do. It's about getting them to take responsibility for the behaviour, giving them tools which they can kind of intervene with themselves to stop that escalation, and ultimately getting them to look at their expectations.
Many people might feel quite shocked by that, though, the fact that that's really possible. And how will you know that that person really has reformed?
Well, the key way you know that somebody is reformed is how they're behaving in relationships. So are they be able to kind of negotiate conflict non-abusively with their partner? Are they putting their children's needs first? How are they talking about their abusive behaviour to their child? So are they able to accept responsibility for it, say that, you know, father was wrong and I'm doing something to change that behaviour? So they're giving those clear messages about responsibility to their children and others.
Okay, thank you very much for explaining all that to us, and we'll keep an eye, I think, on how that develops. Lots more to come, including the family of a girl who